Drip, drip, drip. It's a small dripping fluid. And that's what I was looking at for many, many hours in 2021. I want to take you on a journey because I took a leap of faith a long time ago, and it saved my life. In 1997, I traveled to Tibet. I did 4 different kind of studies. I traveled, I worked in different volunteering projects. I worked in Africa. I've seen the darker side of humanity, where lots of people lost their lives, landmines. And I knew at that time already I need to do something that is beyond me or has some impact. And this is when, in 1997, by sheer chance, I ended up in Tibet. The first person I met there was a young lady. Her name is Sabriye Tenberken. And I nearly stumbled over a cane that she was carrying, and I asked her, "Are you here for sightseeing?" She was traveling alone. She said no. She was very, vigorous in her answer. And Sabriye is blind, right? So she was definitely not there for sightseeing. Luckily, she had a good sense of humor. She didn't beat me up with a white cane. And she told me her life story. Sabriye became blind at the age of 12, and she was bullied for a long time. And she had a tough time. But then once she understood that she has to take her life into her own hands, she went to a special school for the blind. They learned all the skills needed. And then she ended up in an exhibition about Tibet. And Sabriye was very interested, and she thought, this is something I could study. And she was told immediately, yes, there is Tibetology at the university in Bonn, but you're blind, that's not possible. And this is what regularly people are good at, telling other people what they cannot do. So Sabriye still went and studied Tibetology. Now she had a problem because she couldn't take down notes. Luckily, as a blind person, they are usually good problem solvers because they have to. She developed the Tibetan Braille script in only 2 weeks' time. Tibetan scholar saw this. He took it to Tibet, many blind people in Tibet. And he said, this is great, there's no school yet. Who can come and teach? And he knew Sabriye, and he said, Sabriye, she will come. No, that's not possible. She's a woman, and she is blind. That's not going to work. So again, Sabriye went alone to Tibet. This was in 1997 where I met her. She said she was going to find the situation of blind people in Tibet. So she went on horseback. The horse could see, no problem. So she went on horseback through Tibet and found a lot of blind people, and they were locked away in dark rooms, and they were left there to die. This was very shocking for Sabriye. People believe that the blind have done something wrong in their past lives, and now they're punished. Parents wouldn't even touch them because they thought they were possessed by demons. So this was very shocking for Sabriye. Luckily on that trip, she met Tenzin. And Tenzin, a young little boy, 8 years, he smiled and he said, you're blind? I'm blind too. And Sabriye was wondering because the other kids she saw, they were just in a dark room, couldn't speak, couldn't walk. So she wondered and she asked him, what do you do? Now here are 5 steps that are absolutely key, not just for blind people in Tibet, but for all of us. Tenzin was the yak herder. So he had a task. Anyone with a task has value. Anyone that is value is respected. And only if you are respected, you get dignity. And only if you have dignity, you get self-confidence. I think that counts for all of us. And I feel that, coming to dignity is, for a lot of people, unfortunately, not really possible because there's so many expectations from other people, from society. The suicide rate in Kerala was one of the highest amongst youth a few years ago. Now it's Bangalore. Because number 2 is not good enough anymore. There's so much pressure, right? That's something that's not okay. So Sabriye, at that point, she understood, I have to create a place where we can bring these blind children together. They learn skills. And with their new, with real self-confidence, they can go back into schools and integrate themselves. I was fascinated by this story. And I said to Sabriye, you know what, give me a call, when you're ready, and we do this together. So Sabriye went home, I went home. About a year later, Sabriye called me up. I was working in the Netherlands. Sabriye was calling from Germany. She said, hey, Sabriye here. And I was like, Sabriye, how are you? She said, next week I'm going back to Tibet. Bye. She's very straightforward, German people. And I was not reacting quick enough for her. And she said, well, we don't know each other that well. At least you can wish me luck. Don't cry. I was thinking, let's do this. And I said, you know what? I'll join you. The next day I took my leap of faith. I quit my job. And 5 days later we went back to Tibet. Lots of issues, lots of problems happened upon our return, not because of me. So people tried to run off with Sabria's money that she raised from the German government. We were kicked out of the country a couple of times. But the biggest problem was, how can we give hope for these blind children? We had several children, they came literally from a dark room. How can we give them something to get up for? My personal slogan is, life is what you're happy getting up for. Very simple. Life is what you're happy getting up for. If you're not happy in the morning getting up, that can happen once a month, once a year. But if that's every day, then there's a problem, right? We found a solution for the problem that we faced. And we came up with a very simple question. I think it's one of the most important questions in life, if not the most important question. What do I want? What do I want? And it's not selfish. Maybe some of you have flown in an aircraft, right, in an airplane. When the oxygen masks are falling down, the instruction is first to get your oxygen mask on and then assist the children or somebody else. This is in life, I think, is very similar. If you feel well, if you are feeling well and you're happy, that you can do something for other people. If you feel terrible, nobody's going to get energy from you, nobody's going to be inspired by you, nobody's going to be having an exchange with you that there's a win-win, right? So we started a dream factory. We asked our little children, as young as they were, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, what is it that you want? And focus, don't focus on what is possible. Dream. Dreaming is one of the most beautiful, activities because you can do anything. Anything is possible. You can be the pilot, you can be the airplane. Who cares, right? So he said, think about the most beautiful thing. What do you want? Not your parents, your brothers, your sisters, society, you. It's your future. You definitely want to be, prevent that you're going to become a thank God it's Friday person. I see some smiles. I know that you know some of them. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So we said this, so we asked them, dream big. We gave them 2 weeks' time. After 2 weeks, there's Norbu. Norbu is 8 years old. He smiles, he says, I want to become a taxi driver. Now, in a normal conversation, if a child that is blind tells the parents, I want to become a taxi driver, how would the parents react? Are you my son? Yeah, are you dumb? What is this? You can't see, idiot, right? Immediately, a dream is killed. I believe that I have no right, but I think none of us have the right to destroy anyone's dream. Just picture a world where we would listen to each other's dreams, and instead of immediately finding ways to boycott or stop the dreams, we would facilitate and say, how can we make this happen together? We would be in a much different world than we're in right now. I'm 100% convinced. We said to Nobu, wonderful. And here's this little kid, 8 years old. He has a future ahead of him. He was smiling, running around. 2 years later, he speaks English, Tibetan, Chinese, walks with a cane, serves in the internet. We asked him, what about, your dream? What's the status? And he said, well, now I realize because I can't see, maybe it's not so safe to become a taxi driver. But I can set up a taxi company and run it. He's 10 years old. Luckily, for us, he didn't do that because he became interested in making cheese. And I told you I'm from the Netherlands, I'm the son of a baker, and we were missing our good bread and cheese in Tibet. They have chura, not my thing. So he was the first blind person ever to travel. He flew all the way to the Netherlands, learned how to make cheese, came back and started our cheese factory. This is more than 20 years ago. Now he runs a medical massage clinic and he has a restaurant. And he's successful and happy. Why? Because he does something that he loves doing. Sabrina and I, we had our own dream factory. One day we said, what are we going to do the next 4 years? We're going to set up a preparatory school for blind kids, vocational training farm with animal husbandry, market gardening, kitchen management, a bakery, of course a bakery. And we had growing vegetables, knitting, carpet weaving, lots of professions that were not done with blind people, but that our blind children told us they want to learn. We had a Braille printing press in mind, and we had a self-integration program. It didn't take us 4 but 6 years, and everything happened. And it happened well. Our kids were going to regular school. They integrated themselves with a lot of confidence. They were helping the English teachers, the local teachers, to pronunciate the words better than they could. And we knew at that point already, at some point, we have to leave Tibet. So we had to think, what is next? We were looking for leadership training for our students so they could take over our role as directors of Braille Without Borders. We couldn't find anything that was practical. And then we said, okay, we're going to start our own. These are our kids in Tibet. This is the mouse class in front of the Potala Palace. So we had to say goodbye to Tibet in 2017, unfortunately. But already in 2003, we were thinking of what's next. And what's next was actually Kerala. And you might think, why Kerala? We're going to start up an International Institute for Social Entrepreneurs. That was the name we had as well. It was a terrible name. Luckily, we changed that name. I'll come to that. So why Kerala? Why Trivandrum? Because it's actually the center of the world. In that circle, you see Asia, you see Europe, Africa, Australia. In the center is Trivandrum. In that circle, there's 85% of the human's population. There's not a single other point on the planet you can do this with having more than 85%. So welcome to the center of the world. You're close, by the way. It's Trivandrum. So why Kantari? As I said, International Institute of Social Entrepreneurs, that's a terrible name. And luckily, one day, Sabria, we were having lunch, she jumped up and she was, what's that? And somebody said, oh, you bit on a Kantari. And then we understood a Kantari is a perfect symbol for a change maker. It wakes you up better than coffee can, you bite on it, you go, right? It lowers your blood pressure, it's very healthy. What do we do at Kantari? At Kantari, we provide training for social change makers, for people that have been affected by social or environmental ill. And the people we work with are very special. They are survivors. We have people with albinism, they have white skin in East Africa, they're being killed and chopped up in pieces, their body parts are sold as good luck charms. We have people fighting that. We have people fighting female genital mutilation. We have ex-child soldiers from Sierra Leone, Liberia, they're now building peace projects. We have women that have seen rape and domestic violence, they're now working on women empowerment programs. Right now we have one of the participants from Cameroon. She was raped when she was 14. When she was 16, happened again, she got pregnant, she had the baby, she went to the police, but there's a war going on, so the police was not deciding, it's the elders, and the elders said, well, you have to live with the father, and that was the rapist. She lived with him for 2 years, now she's at our place, and she wants to stop rape. She says, I want to see rape just as a word in the dictionary that is something from the past. They're very powerful people, and why are they powerful? Because they go back into their own community. They speak the local language, they know the history, they know the culture, they know the problem. They've been affected, and they have a solution. And the best thing, they are part of the target group. They can say, we, people with albinism, shall not be murdered. We, women, shall not be raped. It's very, very powerful. So in the last 15 years, or since 2009, we trained 280 social change makers from 55 countries worldwide. Right now, there's more than 180 organizations running, and they're running well. They reach thousands of people that are based on the margins of society. Now, this whole story, you're asking, like, why did it save my life? COVID came, 2020. At the end of 2020, I had big back pain, and I didn't know what it was. Right before Christmas, the doctors took out my gallbladder. And unfortunately, the pain remained. So, at the 2nd of February, 2021, a tumor was found in my spine. And it was over 4 vertebrae. And it was 80% of my spine was filled with that tumor, so it was pressing against my nerves. The pain was terrible. I was lucky because at that time, COVID was all around the world. And if I would have been in Europe, so if I had not joined Sabria, I would not be in Trivandrum, where I had access to KIMS. And within 3 days after it was discovered, the tumor was removed successfully. Right? I could still wiggle my toes after the operation. I was very happy. But then 2 weeks after that, I heard that the result of the biopsy was that it was lymphoma, non-Hodgkin cancer. That was not good news. Again, I was lucky because in Europe at that time, cancer patients were sent away. They said, come back in 3 months, we have COVID patients now. So I was lucky that I have access directly to the healthcare that I needed. And when I heard at around 9 o'clock that I have cancer, at 11:30, I was on chemo. What I learned from this journey is that if I have to, changes to I want to, that's where the magic begins. We've seen it with the blind kids in Tibet. When they discovered their I want to, that makes a difference. And I really hope that all of you, when you go forward, give it some good thought of what it is that you want. That you can say, life is what you're happy getting up for. I usually get up around 4:10 is my alarm. At 5 o'clock I'm on the campus. I go home 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. I just go home to sleep. Next morning, repeat. 7 days a week. It's been the last 26 years like this, and people tell me, you have an awful work-life balance. And I tell them, I think you don't get it. I live. I tell people when they come to me and complain about work-life balance, I say there's two issues. Either you're in the wrong relationship or you have the wrong job. When I ask people what they do, right, there's two answers. Students say, I have to go to school. Everybody else says, I have to go to work. That's pretty sad. So I really hope and I wish you that you choose an activity or a profession that has a high risk side effect. And the high risk side effect should be happiness, fulfillment, health, personal growth, and everything else will follow. Thank you.